Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Conan, I guess, because the season is done. And I've been promising throughout the season to go through the settings, the mods, and whatnot, and everything that I'm using. So basically, all of this is based on experience, nothing is sponsored. So this is just my take on a single player, basically a solo playthrough with some spice here and there, modded series that doesn't go too far off vanilla, right? So I'm using Gportal, and I've been using Gportal for quite a while for both my solo adventures and my together adventures. Let's put it like this: solo, duo, trio, whatever. So multiplayer and single player, Gportal has been arguably one of the best server providers. They are not as cheap as others. I figured out there are many more server providers that are much cheaper than Gportal. However, the services they provided are top notch. Tickets always answered and answered in due time. Never had issues with lag, never had issues with anything like that. Very easy to set up. I really love this provider and it works fantastic for Conan. Great. So, the settings. Let me go through each setting one by one. Server transfer enabled. You can enable this if you want to have multiple maps on the same cluster. Everyone can cheat. Not really. I don't really like using admin commands. I don't care about using admin commands. Yeah, I don't really want to have stuff there that can hinder your immersiveness. So I have passwords and whitelists everywhere. Everything here is set to default barbaric, right? So idle thirst 1.1, active thirst 1.1, you name it. If you go into single player and click on barbaric, all of these are going to be set automatically. So I didn't touch these at all. Daytime speed scale. This is something I touched because nighttime in Conan, you can't see jack squat, right? So in chapter 3, nighttime was not important, which means I couldn't really benefit of recording during nighttime. There was nothing happening, and all I did was just hinder my vision and hinder the videos I was putting out. So I decided to change the daytime speed scale to 0.5, which means that the day this means basically how fast the day passes. If it's 0.5, it passes twice as slow. If it's 2, passes twice as fast, right? It's a bit counterintuitive. So daytime scale 0.5 means the day is double in size. Nighttime speed scale 2.0 means the nighttime is half the time you will find on official. Dawn and dusk speed scale, I don't care. Harvest amount multiplier. This is another nice thing here. I run with 2.5, and let me tell you, it's not enough. If you're going solo, if you're going with limited amount of time, if you go in to play and relax mainly, you don't go in to build and become the alpha tribe, you don't go into scale on some god knows what leaderboard or whatever, you just want to go and have fun, right? You want to go and want to play 1 or 2 hours per day. Let's say you got a 9 to 5 job, you get 1 hour back home, and then you spend 2 hours cooking and spending time with your significant other. That leaves you 1 hour or so to play. 2.5 is too low, right? When you have 1 hour to 1 hour and a half, 2.5 is too low. I will increase this to 5 in the further seasons simply because this does nothing in PvE or solo experience. It just sends you out to gather materials more often, which is not necessarily the most fun thing, right? You want to fight things, you want to build things, you want to go check out dungeons and whatnot. There's no point in delaying or putting like a time gate here to harvest insane amount of resources, right? I did this mistake. I didn't want to change it mid-season, so there we go. But from the experience I have with season 1, at least now I know that recording and playing at the same time calls for higher rates, otherwise you get stuck in nothing, right? So I would go with 5. Easily would go with 5 if you're going solo, if you're going PvE, if you're going and you don't have that much time to spend in grind. If you're going PvP, this makes sense to be 1 because resource management is a key mechanic in these kind of PvP games, right? You go out to get iron in a popular spot. There's some other players. They're gonna mess you up. You're gonna mess them up. You know the whole drill, right? So PvE and solo 5 easily. PvP keep it 1. Right. Resource respawn rate multiplier. For me, this 2, or if it's 2 or if it's 1, it makes no difference because I'm playing solo, right? So 2 means the resources respawn twice as fast. 1 means the resources respawn as default. I use 2, and yeah, anyways, for the amount of grind I had to do, I had to cycle through the places. So whether it's 2, whether it's 1, it makes no difference. I will keep it 2 because I noticed a slight increase, which was beneficial sometimes. Sometimes. Drop equipment on death. I had this the whole series set to drop everything, and this is a nice mechanic I like to see. Simply because running around gathering your stuff after you died makes it that much more risky and gives you an incentive to go back. Now, the reason why I had dropped nothing here is because of a bug in Orero's mod. Actually, yeah, you can call it an Orero's mod, yeah. When you upgrade your weapons to Bloodforged, right? We had this in the last episode, the last dungeon we did. When you upgrade everything to Bloodforged, if you die, those weapons are gonna disappear, right? It's a problem with mod and Funcom handling some things differently. Anyways, however, if you do have drop nothing, they will stay. So this is the only reason why I kept this. Otherwise, I think this breaks a nice and interesting mechanic of you being forced to go back within an hour to get your body back and your loot back, your backpack. Otherwise, it's going to disappear. And this makes you rush things. This makes you find quicker ways to run without taking damage, makes you find weird pathings, cheeses, be a little bit sneakier. Because at a point, you can steamroll through everything. And if you die, by any chance, it brings a nice nuance of going there. So I'd suggest this to keep on drop everything, unless you have items like that that do not allow you to do this. Okay, all these are just, yeah, they're standard. It's nothing. I changed nothing here, literally. Use client catch-up time. I think this I changed because there's a point, and I'm not sure how this works exactly, but sometimes when you restart the server or when you go in after a long time, if you put something to smelt, it's gonna blitz through it. And I presume it's because of the catch-up time, because the server and the client need to sync together, so it speeds up the daytime, right? So I'm not sure how this works, to be honest. I'm not entirely not sure, so I have no idea. I just turn it off. Spawn protection, I think this works as a spawn protection too. I have no idea. Honestly, no idea. Right. NPC knockback multiplayer, nothing here changed. Sandstorm has to be there. Structure damage multiplier, everything is default. Default set to the highest difficulty in single player, right? So barbaric, and there you go. Cool. Everything is 1x, everything is 1x, everything is 1x. Cross the desert once. Again, I didn't change this. I didn't change this. So, what else do we have? What else did I change? I changed the Thrall crafting time multiplier. Exactly. Thrall exclusion radius. This doesn't work from my experience. I had to use a mod for this. I'm going to get to it when we go through the mods. I don't think it does anything. I mean, maybe it does, Thrall crafting time multiplier, Jesus, sorry, to 0.2. This is again one of those things that makes sense in single player and PvE, because what does this do? Speed of crafting done by thralls is not the correct description here. Thrall crafting time multiplier is basically the time it takes for a thrall to become your thrall after you put him on the Wheel of Pain, right? It makes no sense to keep this 1x if you're going for PvE or if you're going for single player, right? It's honestly useless waiting time, because what's gonna happen? The mobs are not gonna attack you. You don't have the purge anymore. So you say, oh my god, I need to whatever, and I don't know if the purge comes to my Wheel of Pain or if it comes to my base. Anyways, doesn't matter. It does nothing. You're just waiting there for nothing, for a bar to load. So it doesn't really help you. In PvP, that's something else. In PvP, the more time you spend outdoors waiting for stuff or exposed in order to get stuff, the higher the chance a player will stumble upon you, and you're gonna have a funky time. So if you're going on PvP, I highly suggest this to take it to 0.5 or 1 even. And if you're on solo or PvE, I would even go 0.1. It makes no sense to wait for nothing, honestly. Cool. Everything else, again, default, default, default. Thrall conversion multiplier. I think this one was it. I think the crafting time was the amount of time. Yeah, never mind, never mind. Forget about it. The whole explanation was for Thrall conversion multiplier. My bad. And the Thrall crafting multiplier, apparently the description was correct. The speed of crafting done by thralls. And again, it has the same explanation though. How fast does a thrall craft things? Yeah. You don't have to wait for it. You're solo. What's the point in waiting for a bar to load? I don't get it. So I would still use this as low as possible for crafting timers. I would still use this as low as possible for conversion timers. Again, going with solo and PvE experience. Food, nutritional value, starvation, nobody cares. Animal pen crafting time multiplier, same thing. Same thing. Why would you want to wait for 2 hours to convert a cat? Especially since the cats don't, especially since the cats do not actually pop as greater from the very beginning. Yeah. So I don't see any point in having this too high, which means 0.1 is the way to go in the future. If you're on PvP, another story. Oops. Anyways. Feedbox range multiplier. I would have gone this with the highest possible, but the the feeding box and the thrall pot are broken. They're not feeding your thralls reliably, so there's no point in having this anyway. So I would not go with this at all. Inclusive diet, this is very good because determines whether a companion exclusively eats items in their diet, which means if you put meat on a horse, it's not gonna eat it. To put it simple, if you put any kind of cooked meat on a horse, you don't need to worry that's gonna eat your buff food. So yeah, that's very good. Stamina cost multiplier, everything else again is default, right? Again, everything is default. I didn't change anything else aside from these settings. I'm gonna list them out, right? And yeah, probably. What I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna change these with the storm things because I do want to have a better balance over these things and see if we can increase the difficulty in making the storm more dangerous, right? So yeah, that's about it regarding the settings. As I said, I'm gonna put all the details, I'm gonna list them out. In terms of mods, what did I use in terms of mods? First, and the MVP of this series, and I really do appreciate, and I want this way to give a huge thank you for your work, Orero, and a huge um, congrats and whatnot. I don't have all the praises to give you at this point. This mod has been the MVP of the series, and this is the reason I actually started doing the series. When I saw this mod and give it a playthrough with a buddy of mine, I was astonished by it. I was astonished how vanilla it looks and how it actually makes vanilla content relevant. Because if you take a look at Iwa and Age of Calamitous and whatever, and you name them all, they are so exaggerated it does not feel like Conan Exiles anymore. At least that's my opinion, right? It does not feel like Conan Exiles. However, when I put this thing there and I saw these same bosses doing even more funky stuff, not being exaggerated, being very well balanced vanilla content, the buffs are not that big. The damage you lash out with the weapons is not that big. Religious weapons are relevant again. Actually, a relevant period. You have upgrades beyond legendaries. You have upgrades on armors. You have sets. This is such an amazing mod, and it has been. You can see the amount of work put into it and the amount of attention to details. This guy is fantastic. Do support him if you can. He's amazing in what he's doing, and this mod has been the golden child of this series. And I'm not gonna play stuff without it anymore because I love the weapons and the armors. So this is coming with us to Sipta and probably to Savage Wilds also. Very good mod, fantastic mod creator. Excellent. I can't recommend it enough. Armor and weapon stats and bench by, I think, Xavier. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Anyways, Xavier is an OG in terms of modding in Conan Exiles, a real OG. He has plenty of mods, plenty of quality of life improvements, plenty of everything. So he's awesome and amazing also, and I'm using quite a bit of his mods here. Armor, weapon, and stats in bench does exactly what you think it does. When you open the bench, it shows you 6% strength, 5% strength, 2% strength, 150 armor. Very useful if you don't want to stay with a spreadsheet open on the right side. Yeah, very useful, very good mod. I really do enjoy it. Unlock Plus, this is the mod that makes the bearers be bearers. So they are depositing stuff for you. If you have, let's say, iron in a chest and iron on you, you go to a bearer, you click two buttons, and they're sending everything to the chest. All the iron in said chest. Very good mod, very useful, great quality of life. Another one by Xavier. Chapter 3, Combat Hotfix. What does this do is removes the turns, right? The rotation of the mobs. Why did I opt in for this? I tried playing without it. And you have, so any kind of issue, any kind of desync between the visual and the actual hitbox is amplified a lot when you have difficult content, which means if a cat hits you for 30 damage, it's not a big of a deal if it hits you in a weird angle, or if it hits you more often than it should, or if the animation is a little bit broken, right? If you're playing with a cat that does 300 damage, that thing becomes unbearable. And if you have a little bit of lag, that thing is even worse. So it's not fun. It's not fun. However you put it, it's not fun. So what does this mean? Basically, without this, you can't properly play Orero because the turns, I mean, you could probably play, obviously, if you get used to it. But the turns on the mobs make them even more wonky. If you look at the animations, I have a couple of videos here and there where I complain quite a bit about this, but Funcom has unpredictable patterns The mobs hit you on frame 0, the mobs hit you outside their visual range, so the hitbox is much bigger than it shows. They turn and teleport and chase you around. They turn weirdly and unnaturally. I have even an episode with the teleporting blade, and you can see the one hand blade in the hands of thralls, how they go and turn around at unnatural angles. I'm behind them and they just go 360. You can see the cat jumping around and spinning around you and then pouncing. You can see it go to the right, you go to the left, there's a huge gap between you and you still get hit. With these turns, this makes it even worse. So this chapter 3 combat hotfix by Xavier is a gold one here. I don't like that turn radius or turning around changes they did in chapter 3, and I don't want to play with them. So thank you very much, Xavier, for this. You're awesome and amazing. Cool. Next one, another one by Xavier. Inventory compactor. This is my own. This is for my own pleasure, and this does nothing but moves everything into the free spaces. So when you consume something and you're left with an empty space in the inventory, instead of scrolling all the way down, you have a button there, you click compact, and everything gets compacted, and you have no free spaces between items anymore. I do love to use it. I know some people may find it strange, but I do like to use it. Reliable meteor showers. I didn't feel the need for this mod towards the end, but what does this do is it calls the meteor showers reliably. It doesn't call more meteors, it doesn't do it extremely often, but instead of having a chance to trigger, it kind of evens out that chance, and you won't see meteor showers now and meteor showers in 5 days, right? You will see meteor showers when more reliably coming and falling on the map. When you're playing solo, this is not necessarily needed because you have plenty of star metal all over the place. One meteor shower is enough to fulfill your needs for quite a while, and then you see the second, you go take the second, the third. By the time you get the third, you don't need any more star metal. So, it's nice to see the visuals. What can I say? If you're going for multiplayer or not necessarily PvE, maybe for PvE you want this, but if you're going for PvP, you should not have this because it's going to break the fight for star metal. So it's going to be more reliable more often and people are going to have easier access to it. Whereas if you leave it vanilla and is not that reliable, people have to pay attention and have to be able to work around these timings and these kind of events being triggered or not, regardless if it's reliable. Cool, music battle. I've shown it to you in my tavern. It's the thing that plays music in my tavern. It has some weird tunes. I would prefer to have maybe even an option to customize them. But I do think it's a nice addition and it brings some of the ambience with it. Coffee is good. Great. I love music battle. Probably I'm gonna keep it because I like to have some kind of tavernish music with me, especially if I'm building inns and whatnot. Less building placement restriction. This is another gold one. If you're building, there are two things that I didn't add in this series, and I'm not necessarily really happy with what I build. And because I didn't have these two things, first of all is less building placement restrictions. I should have had it from the very beginning, would have made my life so much easier. This allows you to place thralls next to each other. This allows you to place altars next to each other and allows you to bypass some of the collisions with the buildings, right? That's in a nutshell what it does. If you pair this with Pythagoras and with, I think, less building placement restrictions, advanced features, or something like that, LBPR additional features, something like that. If you pair these three, your building is gonna be so much smoother and so much easier, and this is what I'm planning to do moving further. I'm well beyond building in vanilla. Thank you very much. I need my mods. So golden child, this one too. You can't really build properly and be really fancy and look very nice without expanding yourself too much without this thing. And this Oreros Dungeons overhaul is MVP hands down. Once again, I cannot praise this mod enough. Cool. This is it. This is the setup that I'm using. Everything else is vanilla. I'm not really keen on changing much because I really like the game as it is. So yeah, I really do hope you enjoyed it. I really do hope it's useful. I'm gonna make a collection and put the link in the description with the mods. And I guess that's about it. Cool. Thank you very much, guys, for sticking this long. I really do appreciate it, and I really do hope this was useful to you. Don't forget to do the whole YouTube Trinity, like, share, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff, and see you guys on Septa.